logical fallacy-II នេះប្រហែលជាមាននិយាយបន្ថែមទៅលើ fallacy ដែលនៅសេសសល់យើងហៅថា insufficient fallacy of insufficiency អញ្ចឹងយើងអាច follow ទាំងអស់គ្នាហើយកន្លែងណាឆ្ងល់អាចសួរបើឲ្យក្រុមប្រហែលជាគាត់ clear បាទតោះអាចសុខៃចូលមកអាចចាប់ដើមបានទេបាទ Yeah, you could start now. I turn off my mic.
Hello, good evening, teacher. I'm sorry for late.
Yeah, good evening.
And teacher,
yeah,
should I present right now, teacher?
Yeah, you can start now. You have 40 minutes to do presentation, the longest.
Okay. Good evening, teacher and all classmates.
Yes.
My name is Chun Sokai. I am a member in group number 3. So for my great honest, today I'm very excited to presentation about logical fallacy number 2. It is the chapter is continue from the previous chapter. And teacher, move to the next slide, teacher. For my group member, there are 8 people. First is me. Second is Chun Sopani. Third is Chung Lai Liam. 4 is Chun Sok Hua. 5 Chim Harmony Riang Sai. 6 Chun Chanthi. 7 Chin Kanha. And number 8, the last one is Chum Pros. So please move to the next slide. This is for our table of content. First is abstract. We call it introduction. And second is meaning of logical fallacy. We if fallacy of insufficient evidence. And for the first one is appropriate appeal to authority. Second is appeal to ignorance. Third is a false alternative. 4 is loud question. 5th is questionable cause. 6 hasty generalization. 7 is a slippery slope. 8 is break alone. And number 9 is consistency. And the last number 3 is conclusion, and the last one is a reference. Let's move to the next slide. This is a abstract, and for about, as I mentioned that in the previously chapter we are looking at the fallacy of relevant mistake in reasoning that occur when the premise area logical relevant to the trust of conclusion. And now in this chapter we are talking about we discuss about fallacy of insufficient evidence and mistake in reasoning, in which is a premise. Those relevant to conclude fail to provide sufficient evidence for the conclusion. And we are study the logical fallacy is conduct on the misunderstand of insufficient evidence. And although the logic associated is did not provide the sufficient evidence to support the conclusion. And one of the important is a component of learning in the college. It is academic discourse, which is a requirement, argumentation, and debate. And argumentation and debate is in which head body learn them shallow to the flow reasoning and rhetorical of error. And it mean talk about many of the error are consideration logical facility. Okay, please move to the next slide. So this one we talk about meaning of logical fallacy. What is logical fallacy? It is a reasoning of an error that weaken or invalidate the argument. And a logical fallacy is an error or the reason that is make your argument less effective and convincing. If you want to be able to spot those fallacies in the people's argument, so you can call them out of it your own strategy. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning common enough to warrant a fancy name. Knowing how to spot and identify fallacy is a priceless skill, and it can save your time, money, and personal identities. There are two major categories of logical fallacy, which in turn break down into a wide range of a type of fallacy, each with is their own unique way of trying to trick you into the argument. Please move to the next slide. So this is the point that I would like to show you. For the this point we take two of it, formal and informal. And formal we talk about the the structure, an argument, and brand of the logic. That it is the most concept with a structure, deductive reason. And informal is referred to the none of the structural aspect of the argument, usually expressed in deductive reasoning. So it means like first is a formal logical fallacy. Formal fallacy is a logical and error deductive argument that occur in the form that it is through to the structure of an argument. And for about the informal, it is like a debit error in which is you are saying that is content if you argument the idea might be arranged correctly, but it is something that you said in quick write the content is wrong, offer likely. Okay, and move to the next slide. So right now I just raised about the facial relevant and fallacy of insufficient to show you, but for about the fallacy of relevant, it is already talked the previous chapter during the group number 2. He also respond and show you, but I just to not to focus on it, just to show you what is the fallacy of relevant and fallacy of insufficient. It is like related together, but for the fallacy of the relevant, it is talk about the mistake in the reason that occur because of the premise are logical eerie to the conclusion. And for about the fallacy of the insufficient evidence are a mistake in the reasoning occur because of the premise and just as logical relevant the conclusion. It means that it is a fail to provide the sufficient evidence to support the conclusion. And អញ្ចឹងខ្ញុំចង់និយាយជាខ្មែរបញ្ជាក់ទាំងអស់គ្នាថាតកតងនឹង fallacy relevant ហ្នឹងគេនិយាយអំពីតកតងនឹងកំហុសឆ្គងដែរប៉ុន្តែតកតងដោយការសន្មត់ដោយមិនបានមានភស្តុតាងអីជាក់លាក់ត្រឹមត្រូវប៉ុន្តែគេសន្មត់ថាវាឲ្យត្រឹមត្រូវអញ្ចឹងហើយប៉ុន្តែតកតងនឹង fallacy of insufficient evidence អានេះគេមានទាំង structure និងឯកសារយោងនិង evidence ប៉ុន្តែវាអាចនឹងខុសវាអាចនឹងមានការភ័ន្តច្រឡំអីខ្លះអាចនឹងធ្វើឲ្យកើត នៅការនៅកំហុសឆ្គងដែលយកមកសង្ខេបយកមក total detail អីចឹងណា Okay please move to the next slide this is we talk about fallacies of insufficient evidence so actually my group we do have we raise 9 points first point inappropriate appeal to authorize second point is appeal to ignoring
authority
third is the last of delimit of the plus alternative second loud question sorry loud question and fifth is a questionable test six is a hasty generalization and seven is supply slots and eight is fake analogy and nine is a consistency please move to the next slide and this is my point that I raised and another point my group will be respond and it is we talk about the inappropriate appeal to authority the fallacy of inappropriate appeal to authority is committed when the actor sit witness of the authority who and there is a good reason to believe is unreliable but when in the general it is reasonable to believe that witness or authority is the lie អញ្ចឹងកន្លែងនេះគេចង់និយាយថាតើតើនឹងការភ័ន្តច្រឡំដោយគេលើកពីការភ័ន្តច្រឡំដែលបណ្ដឹងអូតូទៅអាជ្ញាធរហ្នឹងគឺត្រូវបានសម្រេចចិត្តនៅពេលដែលអាគុយម៉ងហ្នឹងនៅពេលដែលចំនួនហ្នឹងគេជឿជាក់ថាវាហ្នឹងវាមិនគួរឲ្យទុកចិត្តអញ្ចឹងណាប៉ុន្តែគេយល់ថាវាសមហេតុសមផលហើយនៅតែវាមិនត្រឹមត្រូវដដែលអញ្ចឹងដោយសារតែវាគឺជាកំហុសឆ្គងដែលមិនត្រឹមត្រូវអញ្ចឹង please okay and now when it is reasonable to think a witness of authority of unreliableកំតអានមូមកវិញតិចមក sorry yes this is I raise point number 1 until number 8 it is also going to the fallacy that has និយាយទៅគឺចំណុចទាំងអស់នេះគឺតាក់ទងនឹង point ដែលបញ្ជាក់ថា fallacy ហ្នឹងគឺសិតតែមិនត្រឹមត្រូវវាអាចចំណុចទី1វានិយាយតាក់ទងនឹង point ដែលមិនពិតប្រាកដគឺការព្យាយាមបំភ្លៃផុសតាំងដែលមិនពិតប្រាកដអញ្ចឹង point ទី2គេនិយាយអំពីការភ័ន្តច្រឡំហើយនៅតែកុហកអញ្ចឹងហើយ point ទី3គេនិយាយតាក់ទងនឹងអ្នកដែលគាត់ស្ដាប់ហ្នឹងគាត់ observe ហើយគាត់នៅតែមាន questionable ហើយ point ទី4គេនិយាយអំពីការដកស្រង់ពីសោះប៉ុន្តែសោះហ្នឹងវាអត់ធានាបានថាវាមិនគួរឲ្យទុកចិត្តអញ្ចឹងហើយ number 5គេនិយាយអំពីបរិបទដែលគេដកស្រង់ចេញមកពីសោះហ្នឹងវាមិនត្រឹមត្រូវ number 6តាក់ទងនឹងចំនួនប៉ុន្តែគេរេះអំពី opinion ហើយ number 7ហ្នឹងគេនិយាយអំពីបញ្ហាដែលត្រូវដោះស្រាយដោយមតិអ្នកជំនាញប៉ុន្តែវានៅតែ opinion ហ្នឹងវានៅតែ set hall វាអត់សមហេតុសមផលអញ្ចឹងណាហើយ the last one ហ្នឹងគេនិយាយអំពី high probable of it face អញ្ចឹងមានន័យថាកន្លែងទី8ហ្នឹងក៏និយាយថាគឺជា point ដែលមិនគួរឲ្យទុកចិត្តដែរ Okay អញ្ចឹង move to the next slide on so please look the brief of at each of reason so it is a source is basic command basic is command is sent tell us that we should be conscious about the constructing a claim when the person making the claim is basic or have some other observed motive to tell all mailers អញ្ចឹងកន្លែង point ខាងក្រោមនេះខ្ញុំរេះវាតាក់ទងនឹង example តាក់ទងនឹងចំណុច number 2 point number 2 example Miss Cox has testified that her son Wallace was home while her at time when Wallace is alleged to have a short stable person, even though the village is a fingerprint were found on the murder weapon, and six witnesses have identified while as the assailant. I can't believe that a good woman like Miss Cook would lie to protect her son. I think Willing is innocent. អញ្ចឹងកន្លែងចំណុចនេះគេនិយាយថាចេះតាក់ទងនឹង Miss Cook ហ្នឹងគាត់ជាម្ដាយរបស់ Willing ហ្នឹងហើយ Willing ហ្នឹងគាត់បានអះអាងថា Willing ហ្នឹងគាត់នៅជាមួយគាត់នៅក្នុងអំឡុងពេលដែល Steven ហ្នឹងបានស្លាប់អញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែទោះបីជាយ៉ាងណាក៏ដោយWilling ហ្នឹងគាត់មាន fingerprint គាត់មានស្នាមម្រាមដៃរបស់គាត់ហ្នឹងដែលបានសម្លាប់ម្នាក់ទៀតហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងគេ believe ថាកូនលោកស្រីហ្នឹងគាត់អត់កុហកទេទោះបីជាមាន evidence 6នាក់ហើយនៅស្នាម fingerprint ទៅដោយប៉ុន្តែយើងគិតថាតើមនុស្សម្នាក់ស្រីដែលជាម្ដាយហ្នឹងគាត់ជាមនុស្សដែលមានអំណាចជាមនុស្សដែលមានកេរ្តិ៍ឈ្មោះល្អគាត់អាចនឹងមិនកុហកអត់គាត់អាចនឹងកុហកអញ្ចឹងឧទាហរណ៍នេះគឺគេលើកឡើងថាទោះបីជាមនុស្សនឹងមានអំណាចមនុស្សនឹងខ្លាំងប៉ុណ្ណាក៏ដោយឬក៏មានកេរ្តិ៍ឈ្មោះល្អប៉ុណ្ណាក៏ដោយអញ្ចឹងបើសិនជាសាច់ញាតិគាត់ក៏គាត់នៅតែអាចកុហកបានដែរអញ្ចឹងអានេះគេចង់និយាយតាក់ទងនឹងផ្ោះតាងមួយដែល not appropriate អញ្ចឹងណាទោះបីជាគេព្យាយាមបំភ្លៃប៉ុណ្ណាក៏ដោយសូម្បីតែយើងអ្នកស្ដាប់ក៏ស្ដាប់មកយើងអាចដឹងថារឿងហ្នឹងវាមិនត្រឹមត្រូវរឿងហ្នឹងវាខុសអញ្ចឹងណាអញ្ចឹងសម្រាប់ my point is finish please move to the next slide for another part and for my responsibility I do have finished thank you so much
Good evening teacher and good evening classmates I'm respond to appeal to ignorant. Appeal to ignorant divided by two definition. The first one is it is an argument with the logical fallacy that can that because no one has shown something to be true, then it is not true. And the second definition is it is an argument with a logical fallacy that can that because no one has shown something to not be true, then it is true. So move to the next slide with our example. Evidence and absence of evidence. This type of argument confuse between the absence of evidence and then the evidence of the absence. To the first one is to the case one premise no one has shown that it is true, but the conclusion, therefore, it is not true. Then I have the one picture show you and also have the example, another. The premise, no one has shown there is anything behind the door. The conclusion, therefore, there is nothing behind the door. Please move to next slide. Then the second type of the appeal to ignorant argument structure. The case one is premise no one has shown that it is not true. The conclusion, therefore, it is true. I rest the same case. Premise no one has shown there is nothing behind the door. But the conclusion therefore there is something behind the door. Please move to next. Why is this a fallacy? Because the fallacy are common error in the reasoning and that will undermine the logic of our argument. It also can be either illegitimate argument or irrelevant point and are often identified because they are lack evidence and support their claim. The arguments are based on evidence like the identifying and appear to ignorant and identify the premise and conclusion of the an argument. Is the premise claiming there is no knowledge or evidence for the object? Is the conclusion that supports by evidence then appear to ignorant instead of the appealing to knowledge is appear to lack of knowledge to support its conclusion. For my part to respond is finished. Please move to another.
Hello teacher and hello everyone. Welcome to my part 3 for alternatives. My topic for alternatives. The fallacies of false alternative is committed when an viewer poses a false either or truth. Here are 2 examples. Look, the truth is simple. Either you support a pure free market economy or you support a communist policy state. Socially, you don't support a communist policy state. How are countries used in fall dilemmas are common from us using country in fall dilemma is a false a choose between extent on the agent someone is good or bad, rich or poor, normal or abnormal. And that's all with my friend. I do with my friend next to presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lai Liang. So, before I continue the next part, let's give me introduce myself a little bit. My name is Chun Suk Hua. So now turn to the 4th part of my talk, which is about the loaded question. So, do you guys know what is the loaded question? A loaded question is content unfair or questionable assumption, sometimes called complete question. It is a type of logical fallacies and errors in reasonings or a trick or thought used as a debate tactics. And the loaded question fallacies occur when arguers ask a question that contain an unfair or unverified presupposition. So by that, or the loaded question fallacy, the answer is no. Loaded question are fallacy only if they are used unfairly in the argumentative context. Sometimes even our best friend can be just sometime. Let's say you get a bad grade in a class, and then your sneaky friend say, "Have you stopped cheating on exam?" Like you see the example on the slides. By this point, I may be. Oh, sorry. By this. Sorry, not. Not yet. Back to the first. Thank you. I just see and this example, I please you guys think about your answers in your minds, and then you will see what exactly your answer means. Okay. Of course, you probably wouldn't say no, which would imply you cheat on your most recent exam. But if you were to please answer yes, you would be implying that you most likely cheat on exam in the past. So no matter what you say, no matter what you answer, yes or no, it sounds like you has been teaching. Questions like this are dangerous not because they are based in falsehood, but because they also typically answerable only by yes or no. So next slide, please. Remember that loaded question combine two or more questions into one. As you see the previous slide, the original question is, have you stopped cheating on exam? But exactly in that question have small question into it. Like you see in the first question is, did you cheat on exam in the past? And the second is, if you did cheat on exam in the past, have you stopped now? By applying a single answer yes and no, answer to both questions, you commit the fallacies of loaded question. Thus, to respond to a loaded question effectively, you must distinguish the different question being asked and respond to each individually. Such as the cheating question. Have you stopped cheating on exam? Maybe you never cheat on exam. So you want to say no, you want to answer no, but that simple answer isn't enough. You would have to say, no, I never cheat on any of my exam. Say, however, if you did answer yes, you might then go on to explain that you stopped cheating on exam, like yes, I only did it once and it was a long time ago. In both cases, you had to add extra explanation. So that's it. Move to the next slide, please. Another loaded question is, have you stopped beating your spouse? First, when the respondent answer yes or no, they will admit to having a spouse and having beaten them sometime in the past. Second, a common ways out this argument is not to answer the question, such as with a simple answer yes or no, but to challenge the assumption behind the question. And third, to use an earlier example, a good response to the question, have you stopped beating your spouse, would be, I never beaten my spouse. This remove irregularities of the expected response, therefore nullifying the tactics. If you remove this, maybe the asker is likely to respond by accusing the one who answer of by you by remove the ambiguities of the expected response, the asker is likely to respond by accusing the one who answer of dogging the question. So, but these are the strategies to get out from the loaded question by adding extra explanation behind the question, behind the answer, and remove the ambiguity of the expected response. Finally, that's end for the 4 parts of my talk. So give Please turn to the next presenter. Thank you. Good evening, lecturer, and let's move to my part, questionable cost. Questionable cost, also known as a Crosstalk fallacy, that it is a category or informal fallacies in which cost is incorrectly identified. Or we can say that questionable cost is a broad category of logical fallacy. These fallacies occur when a causal connection is assumed without proof, or too often claims to causal connection are based on a more correlation. The occurrence of one event after the other, or the occurrence of events simultaneously is not proof of a causal connection. Please move to the next slide. There are three common varieties of questionable cost fallacy. For the first one is the Crosstalk fallacy. Second one is mere correlation fallacy, and the last one is oversimplified cost fallacy. For the first one is the Crosstalk fallacy. Is committed when an actual assumes without adequate evidence that because one event. The Crosstalk fallacy assuming that an event must have been the cause of a later event because it happened earlier. In short, we can say that event B immediately happened after event A, but therefore event A is the cause of event B. For example, how do I know that hot lemon tea is cure for the common cough? Yesterday I got a cough and then I drink a cup of hot lemon tea and the cough gone. For this example, we can see that the actual assume that because of her cough disappeared after she drank a cup of lemon tea, so drinking lemon tea must have cured her cough to disappear. It is more reasonable to suppose that the actual never really had a cough, or that the cough simplified go better on its own. Please move to the next slide. For the second one is mere correlation fallacy. Mere correlation fallacy. This is committed when an actual assumes without sufficient evidence that because the first event is and second event regularly occur together, and the first event must be the cause of second event, or vice versa. In short, we can say that mere correlation fallacy is about two events A and B happen together. Therefore, event A is the cause of event B. For example, on Monday, I had burger for my breakfast and I failed my history test. On Tuesday, I had burger and the French fries for my breakfast and I failed my English test. The next day, I had burger and Coca-Cola for my breakfast and I failed math test. Obviously, to do better with the test, I must stop having burger for the breakfast. For this example, the actual have mistakenly assumed that because two events are regularly correlative, there must be cause and effect relationship between them, but correlation does not imply causation. Please move to the next slide. And the last one is oversimplified cost fallacy. It is committed when we assume without adequate evidence that the first event is the sole cause of second event, when in fact there are several causes of second event. In short, we can say that event A occurs after event B. Therefore, event A caused event B, even if event A was the result of event D, E, F, and G, etc. For example, violence crime has declined steadily in recent years. Obviously, suffer a tougher imprisonment policy are working. For this example, we can see that the first achievement oversimplify the situation by ignoring other causes that have likely contributed to falling crime rate. That's all from my part. Please move to another presenter.
Okay, thank you so much, our presenters. So number 6 is about hasty generalization. So hasty generalization is a fallacious generalization that is usually followed into subsequent simple signs. So in all cases, hasty generalization refers to conclusion drawn from insufficient information or where a logical pathway is reversed. And one more we should know about a generalization is the statement that it asserts that all or most things of a certain kind have a certain quality or characteristic. Here is an example to understand. Say about I read textbook at UC library and didn't be interested at all. There are not good books at UC. Please move to one slide. So hasty generalization is focused on the evaluation is not appropriate for lack of proper consideration. And number 7 we say about slippery slope. So a slippery slope is fallacy occurs when the presenter claims without sufficient evidence that it is a simply harmless action. If taken will result in an undesirable outcome. So example show you about if we legalize marijuana, next people will want to legalize all the other drugs, which means the number of drugs user and gram explode, and this will lead to the end of the world all we know it. So it is a fact that there is not enough evidence and clear inconsistent evidence. If we put it into practice, it will lead to bad result for society. So hasty generalization and slippery slope are relative to speak something without providing adequate evidence that is a relative insufficient even or cause of action will lead to a chain of consequence. Thank you. Please move to another presenter.
Good evening, teacher and good evening, classmates. Do you hear me well? Because my area is heavily raining now. So, yes, about that point is not my point because my group member also had a big problem with the climate today because the electric is cut off and her phone battery is also lost. So, number 8, we will talk about rectangle analogies. A rectangle analogy shows when a person draws a comparison between two concepts, situations, or things to link them together in an argument. Even though the connection between the two is not strong enough to make it pass. It's a type of fallacy of law that constantly makes an action. When an analogy is used to prove or disprove an argument, but the analogy used to prove, but analogy is similar to be effective. That is, unlike the argument more than it is like the action. For example, a vector analogy assures when a person draws a comparison between two concepts, situations, or things to link them together in an action. Even though the concept between the two is not strong enough to make the cause, other type of fallacies of law that can damage an action. And that continues about my points. My point, I want to respond about inconsistency. One, two statements are not be true, we refer to inconsistency. The fallacies of inconsistency occur when an actual is inconsistent or contradictory. For example, that I was up from the books. The first is about moral absolutes. I can't believe that member of the Mandika tribe still practice child sacrifice if anything absolutely and universally wrong is child sacrifice. Moral relativists hate that with the times, man. All value judgment are relatives, and that they are true. The third is about peasant legacies. Preferential is unfair and discriminatory that has no place in collect admission. And the next, I want to explain about each of question. In the first example, the actual assert that it's absolutely true that all value judgment are relative, that is self-contradictory. In the second and third example, actual assert inconsistency. So we can know that inconsistency is logical for the critical thinker and calculator. We should remember, however, that it is also a mistake linked separately to an old idea when new information suggests that the idea is false. No relearning takes place without opening to the new idea. And the next is about the conclusion. In this chapter, we will study about fallacies of insufficient evidence argument in which that will make although logically relevant to conclusion. For to provide sufficient evidence to support the conclusion, currently, some people often rely on the authority of other virtues. Throughout history, blind faith and authority has led to superstition, intolerance, and racism. It is very important to be able to distinguish legitimate appeal to authorities from the whole misrepresent. It is recurrent to avoid confusion in the current social situation. And I would like to suggest you to watch the video related to our presentation here. The first I would like to ask all of you, do you hear about the sound clearly? Do you hear about the sound clearly?
Yes, I do.
Yes. About that bit of
You're not yet here. I can't hear.
you can hear?
Cannot.
Oh my god, what a problem. So she can look at the description also.
Can you replay it again? You try to replay it again.
I need to share a sound first, like that. don't know how to share. So I don't know how to share the sound also. So I hope you, if you want to be clear about our presentation and you want to watch about the video, you can go into our Telegram and look at our group presentation slide, and you can click on the link to watch that video. I hope all of you can clear with that information. And to find out, I want to say thank you for paying attention for my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation.